Welcome to the Lightforge. This is Wickta.
This is Merps. Hello. We're back. It's another Sunday. Have I been playing? Of course I haven't. Okay. If you guys are wondering, has Merps played? Is he going to bring insight? Look, the only insight I can bring is watching streams, of which I do a lot these days. When you have a baby, you don't get much sleep. You watch a lot of things. But there is still a decent amount to talk about because the meta, although it hasn't really changed much, it has solidified. We have more insights, and we could just complain all the time that's how some people build their quote content. But that's not what we do here.
We've complained 2 weeks in a row. The
We
goal of this
complain.
podcast for this week is to not talk about the leaderboard besides mentioning it. Right?
Yes,
No deep dives into it because we're just setting it
this is
aside.
not this is not about the leaderboard.
Yes.
Let's talk about the meta and really how you can try to gain an advantage in the meta. Because let's just take a look at the meta. First of all, if you go to HS Replay right now, click on Arena. Mage is number one at slightly below 54%. I think if you just go by the numbers, most people will be like, wow, that's very reasonable. Now, if you ask somebody who plays, do you think Mage is, quote, reasonable right now? I think they would say no. Mage is extraordinarily frustrating. And if you just look at their top cards, you'll understand why. The most common cards that you will see for a Mage, number one is Ruined Orb, which means anything and everything.
There's a
And
word
like,
here. It begins with a D and ends in it is cover.
yes. So they are able to discover. Their top cards are by far the cards that I think most people would rank as the most toxic cards in Arena. So you have Ruined Orb, you have Drakefire Amulet,
Which also has the D word.
Discover, Frozen Touch, which is not Discover, but infinite, infinite Frozen Touches. People get really annoyed by that. Spell Coiler, Discover a Spell, Cold Case, which is just like a solid kind of card. You see it a lot, but meh. Ethereal Conjure, Discover. Gray Sage Parrot, which we've called it parrot metas in previous metas. This is the most parroty meta that we have ever seen. It is impossible for you to not get something amazing to pair up with parrot,
And
whether it is
remember,
in your
that's
deck
because of the D word. Like,
or
I know this
Discover.
card doesn't have the
Mhm.
D word on it, but what you're copying is more than half the time coming from the D word. Whether from your
Yep.
class card D word or from the neutral card D words, which is the same D word, in case you're confused. It's just all over neutrals now, too.
And the spells, the big spells of which you are guaranteed to get are amazing. Whether it is, the quote bad choices like Blizzard, to amazing cards like Arcane Defenders.
Mm.
You also have Deathborn, right? You also have Arcane Overflow. These are game-winning cards that by themselves are ridiculously amazing. And then you attach a body on top of that, like a cheap body on top, it's way too good, right? So this is why you can look at something like Mage at under 54% and be like, yeah, it's okay. But I think if you ask people who play, they're going to be like, yeah, nerf Mage, get rid of Mage, whatever. But let's go to the very bottom. The very bottom is very interesting because it really does show what kind of meta it is. So at the basement level, we have Warlock at 40.7%, and the sub basement level, so like, there's a hidden trap door in the basement, and you got to go below, and this is where Demon Hunter is, and they throw like fish head buckets to feed the Demon Hunter, and they never see the light of day. 37.4%. This is among the lowest any class
Wait,
has ever been.
37.2?
37.4.
Oh, you haven't hit the refresh button. It's 37.2. Now.
Oh my god, it actually went down in the half hour. I had okay, guys, wait. I'm oh no, oh wait, no. Wait. Okay. I I pulled this up. So right now it is 7:16 p.m. Okay. I pulled this up at 6:45 p.m. in preparation for this. In the half hour, some unfortunate souls went like 0 and 3, multiple ones. Okay, this sample size is so large. Demon Hunter went down by 0.2% in the half hour. Who knows where the real bottom is? That is incredible. It didn't just reset. Like this is insane how it actually went down 0.2. But yes, this is where Demon Hunter is. Okay, what does that really mean? Warlocks and Demon Hunters being this far away at the bottom. And we can talk about number 9, just Shaman at 45.1%. And then it's like kind of a smooth curve upwards, right? 45% for Shaman up to 54, not even 54% for Mage. If we only had 9 classes, I think we would say it's like by the numbers, this would be kind of a decent meta, right? Less than 10% difference. Okay. But Warlock being at 40.6 and Demon Hunter being at 37.2 is very troubling, mostly because if you just look at hero powers, these should be 2 of the best hero powers in the game, right? Warlocks, the crappier you make cards, the better the Warlock hero power is. The more sort of the crappier you make cards as well, and the more it is just Yetis bumping into Yetis, and then you can finish off their Yeti with a 1-cost hero power from the Demon Hunter. Wow, that's fantastic. So it really does go to show why people are frustrated when the Warlock hero power is this crappy, and when the Demon Hunter hero power is this crappy. A lot of the explanation comes from, wow, the cards must be really good, and they are. Like there's a lot of very, very good cards that, hey, this advantage you get from Demon Hunter's great tempo hero power, it doesn't matter as much. The card advantage, quote unquote, that you get for Warlock hero power, what card advantage? Mages always have a full hand. They can always discover. They're never running out of options. So yeah, it's like, wait, you have to pay mana and pay life to draw cards. I'm a mage. I get to choose and then draw these cards. I don't have to pay anything, right? And then I get to repeat them with parry.
Yeah, I mean,
So
usually you're
that's
paying
yeah.
effectively a mana per time you discover a card. You are paying a mana. It's not a
Yeah.
mana. It's not 2 mana and 2 health, but you are paying a mana and stuff that you'd otherwise get.
Sometimes. Other times you have stuff like Scorpid, which are paying nothing.
Okay,
Right?
but everyone has Scorpid.
Yeah, but
Yeah, okay, and yeah, Scorpid's a weird case, all right? Scorpid's like it's a card that I don't know. There are still people like I'll see them right now in chat that are going to defend Scorpion's existence in the arena and not a nerfed offering rate, and I just don't understand these people. They can come and say all these kinds of arguments, but at the end of the day, like the feeling is what's coming. Like this is what you like. I can't argue with that. I don't care about the logic of it to that degree because I'm very convinced that I'm right on this and I've thought about this for a long time. But like, I don't understand how you can feel good about this. Like, I don't understand how you can sit in a game, see so many Scorpions, and be like, this is more fun than if I saw, like, a lot less Scorpions. Like, comparing the two. Like, that blows my mind. But, that's subjective as to what is more fun. Okay. Uh, the hero power thing that is hugely important, not just because it's putting Warlock and Demon Hunters on the bottom, but when it comes to your gameplay, we're gonna cover this in the next topic about how hero powers are used. You're gonna see in the standard meta, it's very different than like a wild meta, right? Where your hero power actually does stuff. Your hero power doesn't do stuff anymore, like generally. So it's not even just that, oh, the Warlock's hero power doesn't do stuff because everyone can draw cards. That's true. It makes Warlock hero power even worse. But the Mage hero power also doesn't do anything. You just don't need to use it anymore. Like all the hero powers have gotten significantly reduced. But going back up to the Mage, not specifically the Mage, I think we covered their Discover Fiesta very well. And if you play and you get to very high win rates, you will see a disproportionate amount of Mage decks there. I think you actually probably see more Mage decks in that mid zone than in the very end. Like, there are more Mage decks hanging out in like the 6 to 9 win area than the 10 to 12 win area. Because there's so much RNG involved in all these discovers that once you get to like that mid zone, you start seeing half, maybe more than half of your matchups be mages. And then once you get over that, you start seeing some of these other classes pop up with like true ridiculous decks. because a lot of mages can get really high win rates without true ridiculous decks just by lucking out, right? Like when you have things that are so all over the place, you're going to have some decks up, some decks down. But if you look at Hunter, Druid, and Paladin, the next three classes that are up there, they're actually quite stable on the class card side. They get more discovers from the neutral package than from their class cards. Um, that's not to say they don't have class cards that are discover. In fact, the Paladin's number one card is whatever that discover card is. Muckborn Servant that discovers a Paladin card. Their number one scene card. So it's not that they're not there. You just see more Scorpids, more Viziers, more Pandas than you see those even within Paladin. So those, and especially the Druid, are more stable opponents to face. You have more of an expectation of what can go on, and you have an easier time of consistently defeating them. So I think in your mind, when you're facing these opponents, you really have to categorize them into like basically mage, and I'm gonna look through this real quick. But I think priest is there for all sorts of reasons, because even their non-discover cards have a lot of randomness to it, in terms of randomly putting different kinds of cards in your hand, right? And identity theft is their number one most seen card, so they follow the same playbook as mage, just kind of crappier. Rogues get a similar treatment, um, but your top three classes after mage are more stable classes. So in your mind, when you're facing these two different types of opponents, don't confuse them too much, because a mage will discover more than double the amount of spells that a paladin would. But like well more than double, maybe even more than quadruple. And paladins discover plenty of spells in this meta, but the way you approach that is going to be different. So that's something to know about going to the meta, to keep in the back of your mind when you're dealing with your opponents, and what to do with it. Um, Now I want to bring this on the ground rather than what classes are good or not. I want to bring it on the ground to what decisions you're making inside of a game that will actually matter. What we've been saying so far in the broadest strokes is a lot of things about drafting, because drafting is legitimately different now in this meta, quite significantly than in prior metas. But beyond drafting in the game, it's like the tempo matters a little less. You want to try to hold for combos if possible for all the Mana Thirst cards and all the Infuse cards. Try to get the value from that, because the games are not won on turn 4 or 5, usually, Hunters aside. They're actually won significantly later, and you're going to need these kinds of swing and counter swings. And so if your opponent swings and you don't have a counter swing prepped, you're kind of in trouble. So that's kind of the broad strokes. And obviously you have to adjust for that for what your opponents are doing, right? Like if your opponent is a hunter or a druid, or a paladin, like then you have to get on the board to not die in the beginning. And you're gonna have to play a little bit tempo. The game is still not won on tempo, but the game is lost on tempo for you, because you're facing an opponent that has the potential to overrun you. Now, if they don't get a good start, they're not going to overrun you, and you're fine. Like, don't overcommit on tempo just because it's a hunter. Hunters right now are kind of this 50-50. Like, in many metas, Hunter's a very interesting class. In this meta, Hunter's probably the most interesting class, because they straddle that line between being able to go fairly aggressive and being able to generate a fairly large amount of cards very well. And you can draft all sorts of different types of Hunters with all sorts of different types of synergies all in there. So Hunters are a real grab bag right now, whereas Druids and Paladins are much more straightforward in terms of what they're capable of. So if you see what they're doing, you know what they're going to do. You kind of have this roadmap of like, prevent death here, prevent death here, prevent death here. Oh, I have 3 reads on them of which cards they may or may not have. All right, now I know how to win the game, or I don't have what it takes to win the game. So, anyway, back to your decision making. That's just kind of the broad strokes of your big picture decision making. On the actual ground, the one decision that comes up again and again and again and again in the first, we'll say, 4 turns, And if you're doing well in this meta, you're probably already doing this. You don't need me to tell you this. But for people who are still struggling in this meta, this this difference is in how to anti-tempo. So rather than like, it's never worth it right now to go full tempo in the beginning because you're not going to win the game like that. Like you're doing max tempo if your opponent is doing max tempo and they're one of the classes that can kill you. But other than doing it defensively, at any opportunity you have to hold to gain any kind of value or potential value, you have to do it because the board is not that important. A couple of extra damage on your opponent is not that important. Uh, and the chance that you'll have the extra, like the initiative that you get, that you can choose whether to hit your opponent's minion or go face, is even less important in this meta. Like the whole go face or trade like decision making has never been less important. Like to whatever extent we keep saying, oh, tempo's not as important, tempo's still not like unimportant. The face damage is still not unimportant. You still get some wins like that. But the decision of whether to go face or trade in the early to mid game has almost no bearing on whether you win the game or not, outside of maybe Hunter. And that is a very new thing that I don't think we've seen in a prior meta. Or if we have, it was a while ago and I'm not like remembering the meta. But because that is the case, you don't need tempo. And to the extent that you need any kind of tempo, it's just like a little bit of tempo is good. To like work with whatever cards in your hand that you have to like deal the appropriate damage if you really need to remove something. So if you have a lot of removal in your hand, you really don't care about tempo at all. If you have like janky removal or like not a lot of removal in your hand, then yeah, having a little bit tempo is useful. But there's no need to ever do more than like match your opponent. Anything else after that, you should be thinking about, can this card get more value? So on the ground example, let's say you have a Croc. Not in the game, I know. But let's say you have a 2 mana 2/3 that does nothing. And it is like, I don't know, turn 3. And you can either hero power down to 2/1 with your mage hero power, let's say, or you could play a Croc, right? You can play a Croc, you can hero power, it doesn't matter. You don't care because the Croc is not going to get more value later. On the other hand, if you are instead holding one of the, let's say, infuse minions or one of the mana thirst minions that are pretty much guaranteed to get value later on, or if you're holding a card that you know you have 1 or 2 or even 3 synergies in your deck that'll get you like more than 2 tempo or 1 card's worth of power later on if you do hit it, then yeah, you would be crazy. You would be crazy to play a card over just like using a hero power, even though the hero power is bad, or like playing some other card that's maybe a little bit less efficient or a little bit less tempo. What you want to always do is to maximize your ability to do stuff later, unless you're dying right now. And you can tell when you're dying right now. If if your opponent's a druid and like points out 2/1 drops, tempo, do everything you can to tempo. You're gonna die. Um, but if you're not at the stage where you're like, oh, I'm about to get overrun, then especially if your opponent is also doing the thing, and mages almost always do this thing where they're just trying to remove your stuff and they're not putting a lot of stuff on the board at all, you have to do the same thing. Because by you putting a lot more stuff on the board, that extra 1 tempo, 2 tempo, or whatever is going to be meaningless. The mage is going to remove it anyway and then move on with their life. They're probably not even going to have to use extra cards. They're probably hanging mana anyway. Like, you're getting nothing out of it. So if what you're potentially losing is a Croc that's off curve now and will be off curve later, it's really not a big deal. But if you're potentially losing, like, say like a Silver Moon, one of the Silver Moon neutral cards, like a Sentinel or something, you don't commit that. That is not as useful right now. Or if you have a card that could potentially synergize with something later. Like I've held whatever that 2/3 like +1 spell damage card is in Mage. Like I've held that like it's a very valuable card, even though it just deals 1 extra damage to whatever I put out. Because anytime I have a board clear or a multi-hit one, that one gets super extra value. I've held it without having anything to synergize it with in my hand yet. Because I'm a mage and I know I could generate stuff, and also I know I have cards in my deck, plenty of them that I could draw to make stuff out of. Like that is not a Croc. and those things make a lot more of a difference in this meta than any incremental benefits you get on the board. So that's the incremental advantage in a swing meta. I wanted to put this out there rather than just the big broad strokes, because a lot of the times the big broad strokes only work if you already get it, if you already know what's going on. And if you actually need help in this meta, you don't have the big broad strokes, or maybe you know the words, but figuring out what that means is like a couple of steps, not where you're at yet. But this is like some on the ground advice of how to get the incremental advantage. And you may look at this and say, like, oh, I don't know, maybe it's just 2 damage here or 2 damage there. Every turn, you're getting 2 damage. Every card you don't play is 2 more damage later on. So if you start doing this on, let's say, turn 3 or turn 2, then by turn 8, you've stacked up 1 extra huge swing. Easily. And if you had 1 extra big swing versus not having 1 extra big swing, this is a game where it's like 3 swings my way, 3 swings my opponent's way. Let's see where the chips fall, right? Now, what if you have 4 swings? Big game changer there, right?
Yep. I think that's a good way to put it. Because like you don't want to get caught into this thinking where nothing matters, right? Because if nothing matters, then we wouldn't have all these great leaderboard placements, but we do. So one interesting thing that I saw in the chat was like, oh, is this the first true control meta? This isn't a control meta at all. It's a combo meta, like, and you're just sort of trying to kind of survive the combo and like do your own combos as well. And there are certain skills in that. Like if you see constructed sort of combo v combo decks, there's a lot of normal play, and there's a lot of just like preparing for what could happen. In Arena, it's tougher because the swings are not as predictable, but they will happen. If you never expect a swing, then you are not playing the meta correct, right? Like swings will happen. But there are certain ways to push and to kind of temper expectations. It's part of the reason why Hunter is so good right now, because they are able to uh, really kind of put some pressure on. Now they also have good cards, right? They have good cards. Bloodseeker, for example, is just one of the best cards in the game, period. But the pressure that a card like Bloodseeker can put onto your opponents, like that is what's really important as well. So it's not really a big surprise to see Hunters doing well. It's like, yes, they have the good cards, but Hunters also are in a unique situation where in a game that has prioritized more and more kind of being able to put pressure on your opponents because the games can last such a long time. Hunters, that hero power, that ability to just kill your opponent is really valuable now.
Hunters have just about the only useful hero power left in the game.
Crazy, right?
Like, people think it's control meta because it's so easy to deal little bits of damage and large bits of damage, and so that makes stuff like the Mage hero power or all the other pings a lot less useful. The Paladin hero power does nothing outside of combos. Like, what's a 1/1 doing in this swing meta, right? Like, when's a 1/1 gonna swing the game? The Shaman one is a little bit more interesting. Like, right now, the Shaman hero power is probably the second best hero power. It's still too RNG to be consistently useful, but it's at least trying to do something. The other hero powers just all don't do enough for a standard meta. So you just have Hunter. That's it. And Hunters have a problematically good hero power in its design. Like, if you remember in Classic, like, they had to do so much, like more than any other class. They had to just keep flipping Hunter around because no matter what they did, if they just gave Hunter normal tempo cards, not even over tempo cards, just normal tempo cards, Hunters are just gonna win.
Yep.
And that's because 2 damage to the face is too much. When they doubled everyone's hero power in these cards, I forget what these cards are called, but these legendary cards, like the 6/3 that upgraded everyone's hero power. The Hunter upgraded hero power deals 3 damage, not 4. Everyone else is doubled. Like, I think the Shaman one you get to pick, right? So it didn't quite double. But everyone else is doubled. And for the hunter, they're just like, we can't do it. We can't do it. Game too broken if we did it. It's because the hunter never should have 2 damage to the face as a hero power in any case, in constructed at least. And in the arena, as you know, this meta is often described as a more constructed meta than what we're used to in the arena. It gives the hunter hero power more relevance. Now, that's not to say the hunter's hero power is super good in this meta. It's not. It's just super good relative to the other hero powers that are almost completely irrelevant.
Yep. So yeah, this is like if you just look at what classes are doing well, look beyond the it's all discover, it's all card quality thing. There's a reason why demon hunters suck, warlocks suck, but hunters are among the one of the best classes. And going back to your comment, in that meaty kind of 7-8 win bracket, you're going to see a lot of mages. You're going to see a lot of hunters if you go up to like 12.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the hunters which, because they have good cards, but in addition to that, they also just know how to play, right? Like, man, they're going to pressure you, and maybe your deck is a little bit better than them in order to get that far. But man, that hunter versus mage matchup in which you're be like, oh, well, like I got my parrots ready. I'm just gonna discover something with rune orb. Oh wait, I'm dead. Like I'm just
That's
dead,
why
right? Like
Case is so good. You were like,
okay,
and there's also Case. I'm like, I think Case has earned it. It has
no, it's
earned
true. It's
it.
true. Right. No, it's those. Yeah. Well, it's also why something like Arcane Defenders is so freaking
Oh
good.
my god.
Um,
Terrible design. What are you doing, Blizzard? What do you do in Mage? I mean, Amulet as well, but at least Amulet is 10 mana. You could be like Millhouse style, right? Like, oh, wait till I get to 10 mana. That's just, why are you having Mage summon like extra tempo stuff that also
yep.
has taunt of all things? That's not a
Yep.
Mage thing. I mean, okay, I guess Mirror Image or whatever like had taunt from the very beginning, but it was just kind of that one-off card. Mages don't really taunt. Anyway,
Yeah.
that card annoys me more than anything else that mages can do. I think it goes like Deathborn and then the elemental summoning. Because every time I see it, I'm just like, what are you doing, mage?
This is a pretty common thing. It's like whenever people get too comfortable in a meta, Hunter. Whenever anybody tells you like, oh, like the meta's been figured out. This class is so oppressive. That class is so oppressive. They had their value is so much. Here is what human nature tends to do. Your Timmies are going to want to out parrot the other
Mm-hmm.
person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when that happens, man, it's time to slide underneath all of them. And because it's more fun to out parrot someone, right? I
Wrong.
mean, that's
So
me,
wrong.
of course. But to a lot of people, it is more fun to out parrot them. Um, but if you guys are true arena fans, the most fun is perfectly calculating that lethal, knowing that on turn 4, you going face instead of clearing this like somewhat dangerous minion. Oh, that was the right choice. And man, you get rewarded for it.
Oh yeah. By the way, guys, go face more often. You're not going to get a chance to do it a lot. But going face versus killing something on the board, unless the thing on the board has like an ability or something, going face is just going to be better more often than not in this meta.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're worried about them going to your face. Like before, you're worried about getting good trades to get extra 2-1s and 3-1s and whatever onto the board effectively, right? Compared to if your opponent makes more efficient trades. You're not as worried about your opponent going to your face. Here it's the exact opposite now. You're worried about your opponent hitting your face, and you have to be ready to win that race if it happens. And if you're like very insecure about winning that race, then yeah, you may trade. But otherwise, you're just going face because you and your opponent have that same thought. Like, what's another 2-1 on the board from good trades on the board? What's another 3-1? They don't really matter that much. They're all going to get swept away in whatever big swing is happening.
Yep. All righty. So, um, yeah, I think that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
If so, look, if you guys want to play Mage and do the thing, that's fine. I'm gonna tell you guys right now, there's a reason Mage is not even 55%. It's because you look at mages and you just remember the good mage decks.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, wait, I don't have to remind all of you guys. Of course, I know that when you guys draft mage, the decks all suck. But I just have to say once again, some mage decks are just not that great. They're just not that great.
Most mage decks are
And
not that great, and then other mage decks that are great, like most of the time, you're gonna get a lot of bad beats. You're gonna get a lot of bad beats from your own RNG because you're putting your deck in the hands of RNG. So even the good decks are going to, they're gonna run into issues now and then. Like, what if all those rune orbs and all those scorpions and all those whatever, all your discover stuff? What if they just keep giving you trash and then you
yeah,
die? And then you're like, oh no, what happened to my, amulets and my rune, the big runes, rune the archmages, and like whatever that I'm trying to discover, and the flame strikes, like where were those? And the answer is, well, sometimes they don't come. They'll come most of the time because you're discovering them so often. Like if you keep rolling a dice, it'll hit 6 eventually. But sometimes it just doesn't. Sometimes you roll the dice like, I don't know, 12 times and a 6 doesn't pop up. You're going to take a loss for that. That's why the mages aren't there at 12 wins as often as they would be if you were just looking at them at 7, 8 wins.
yep. All right, so play mage if you want, play hunter, and use all of the philosophies that you should have picked up in previous metas when metas sort of quote like got out of hand. So use that. Um, and then whenever you are faced with a decision, just go face. Now don't just like go face and be like, oh man, I lost. I guess there was nothing to learn. Um, Try to see what happened, and then of course ask yourself the right questions. Like, I got punished for it. Was it really punished? Could I really have expected
Yeah.
this? Right?
Yeah.
Could I really
Like,
have expected a weird 3-card combo to punish me from leaving up this 2/2 on the board? Other than that, yeah, like just dude, go face.
mm-hmm.
Even if they get like a decent trade on you, these days you should go face unless they, unless there's like a 4-1 on their side and you have like a 6-4 on your side. It's like, dude, yes, please try to get
Protect
rid of
it.
the 4-1, right? Please try to get rid of the 4-1 on their side because that's really dumb. Like, don't be like, well, like I heard Merps, he just wants to go face, so as a mage, I'm gonna turn this thing into a jellyfish, but leave it up as a 4-1. Like, no, please ping and get rid of it afterwards. But yeah, these are the applicable skills that you should be using. Because if you just keep trying to out mage and out priest and out whatever your opponents, you're just gonna get beat too often. They're gonna draw their amulet at a very opportune time. They're going to, I don't know, like Leviathan you, just do something really, really dumb to you. So don't let that happen. And you never know. Like this chip damage that you think is chip damage actually will put you in a position to kind of win. It's like the Hunter Hero Power thing.
Mm-hmm.
Damage doesn't matter until it matters, but it's
Mm-hmm.
hard for you to picture when it matters. It's almost like saving up money, right? You can think of it like, well, what does saving up like $10, $20 on this paycheck mean, right? It doesn't mean anything. It won't add up, but it really does. So just like how saving here and there will add up long
And
term, you getting that damage in the early game when you're just like, it doesn't matter. What's the difference between like 23 health versus 25 health? It will matter. It could matter,
yeah,
and you want to make that matter.
I like your example of the $10 to $20 because that's exactly what this chip damage is. Like if you keep saving $10 to $20 every paycheck, by the end of the year you will have what 50 times 10, that's $500 sorry, 25 times 10, $250 to 50 to $500. That matters. You can buy like good stuff for $250 to $500, but is it really going to be life changing? No. No, it won't be. So when you're evaluating what the effect of going face is, remember that the vast majority of the games is not decided by this. This is just one small part, right? That's why we talk about a lot of other things before we got to this, like, oh, by the way, just go face more often than before. Like, this is more important than tempo these days in the early and mid game, but it's not hugely important. But hey, who wouldn't want an extra 250, $500 at the end of the year? Right? Like, and who getting that would be like, oh, whatever. No, we'd all be super freaking happy if like the extra 250, $500 came to us at the end of the year, right? Like, this is not it's not like a whatever amount, but it's also not like, well, I couldn't afford to pay my rent and I lived in a crappy studio apartment and now I own a mansion. Like, that's not what's happening here, but you do appreciate it and it will win you a game here or there. And even if it doesn't win you a game, it's just the right thing to do, right? If you're looking to improve your game generally and like be like, oh, what's the right move here? Even the moves that don't matter as much, like just make the right play or like think about it a little, right? And in the early to mid game, there's not that much to think about. This is a game that gets really, really freaking complicated in this meta, but it doesn't start getting that complicated until like the late mid game, or maybe the mid game. But the early mid game and the early game is still well within the rope that they give you. Like, I even don't have problems there, so you're not like wasting thinking time with it by like focusing a bit on the what happens if I go face thought.
All right. I think that's it. I think that's it's a good sort of like analysis and a little bit of a tip.
All right.
We
Question
always
from the
want
goat.
to. Oh yeah.
That's all right. Go ahead.
Fine.
Go ahead.
Question from the
Finish
goat.
your thought,
Yeah.
and then we're gonna do a question from the goat.
No, it's just like you never want to get caught in a this meta sucks and there's literally nothing you can do about it, because that's never true, right? It's literally never true. So don't get caught up in that, guys.
Yeah. Question from the goat. We're gonna have a 3-part question from the goat. It's gonna be quick. First, life update, because we haven't told you for a while on the podcast at least. If you watch us on the stream, it's a 3-part one. It's a 3-part question from the goat that I did not make up at all. Because we haven't given a life update on the actual podcast, even though if you watch this live on Twitch, we talk about stuff before, after, sometimes a long time after. So that's part 1. Part 2, this one is not from me, but people are curious about our Diablo 4 plans. Diablo 4 is getting close. And part 3 will be very simple, and it will be a 1-word answer, and you can think about it, or if you don't have already answer, will Everything Everywhere All at Once win the Oscars? I will give you guys the betting odds as of right now. It is a 20-1 favorite. Meaning, if you want to bet against it, you don't have like as good odds, but you will have almost a 20-1 payout. All right.
Wait, it's a wait. So if you bet $1, how much do you get?
Well, 20, but you can't make that bet. You can only bet the field, right? So you get less because they take a bit of each of the field, but you'll get like, I don't know, 18 or 17 or something.
Wait, so what are? I don't keep up with Oscars. Like, what are the other candidates? Who?
The Banshees. I think All Is Quiet on the Western Front. Tar. There's a few movies. I'm gonna watch Banshees. I was gonna watch Banshees this weekend, but I
don't know any.
I'm gonna watch it next weekend. Banshees looks really good. I'm really excited about Banshees. I just haven't gotten around to watch it because I was watching Severance, which I just finished today because you recommended it. It was very good, but they did more with it than I think that I expected them to. But they didn't connect it all as well as I thought they could have on a thought level. Like the feeling was good, but like there was, especially that middle part, like there was a little bit of jarring part before they moved to their 3-episode finale, right? That's how I felt anyway.
I think so. I think the thing with Severance, and I don't want to make this question from the go all about Severance. You really do have to appreciate sort of like scene setting, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of like the lore of things as well. If you only care about like story, or sort of like, oh, the philosophical content of like what this all means, you won't be completely satisfied. You really do have to appreciate it. It's like,
because most of the movie is scene setting. Like most of the movie is like the music, the camera angles, the looks.
You mean series?
Huh? Yeah, series. Sorry. Like the camera angle, the actor's face as it reacts to nothing or its own thought that is not being narrated. Like, it's very good at setting the mood.
It's very good in terms of Because this is what good movies and films do. They make the setting into a character, right? Like the setting itself is a character, and Severance does that about as good as you will ever see. So that's what you should super appreciate about it.
Mhm.
Okay, first of all, let's talk about D4.
Mm.
We will be playing it, yes. Now here,
D4 is truly out June 1st, by the way. That's when they stop wiping away your progress.
I am really nervous about Diablo 4. Like, I do not like
You've been
sort of
messaging this for like months. I'm surprised that you're so like skittish about it.
yeah, I don't I am very, very nervous about
Like, what
D4.
are you nervous about? That people won't like it, or that it will actually be bad, or that it will be like on par or worse than Diablo Immortal? Like, what is your fear?
No, no. Okay, so first of all, I can't even compare it to Diablo Immortal because I can play Diablo Immortal on my phone.
Yeah, I'm not
Like
talking about you. I'm
people are
talking
like,
about the
"Oh,
game
duh."
quality. Or oh, you're just saying it's definitely gonna be better than Diablo Immortal, but it may not matter because the expectations are gonna be higher for a true PC game rather than a mobile
Yes, because my expectations are also different. You
game.
know what I mean? Like my expectations are very, very different for Diablo 4. Um, what I saw from the like super like watermarked beta from before, I did not enjoy. I did not like. I didn't sorry, because I did the end game beta and I was like, this end game kind of scares me. It just seems like a mix of Diablo Immortal and Destiny. Two
Is that
games
is that
that
bad?
yeah, because it's not what I envision for actual like that's not what I want from a PC Diablo endgame. You know
Okay,
what I
so what do you
mean?
mean by the mix between the two? What is an area that you would want on the PC that you don't that you are fearful that they might not deliver
I think first of all, it's going to be a lot of like play on our time,
on? Right,
not yours.
right.
Which it to me is a core of like it that's something that I don't want my Diablo to be, right? I want it to be like,
Mm,
oh, I can do these runs wherever. Um, it's a lot of directed kind of end game as in you're going to do this dungeon, right? Like this dungeon is
hmm.
where it's going to be. Whereas Diablo 2, and I understand, you know, you can min max, and at the end of the day, you can say, oh, what does it matter? You're doing Chaos Sync anyways, right? You're doing Bale runs anyways. But it was less directed, and I liked that.
Hmm.
And in Diablo 2 Resurrected, they actually even made it more open. They're like, oh, we want you to play the entire game, and we're going to do
Yeah,
these chaos places,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
every place is a zone, and
You
we're going to
don't think they're
alternate
gonna
it.
bring chaos places in some concept or way into Diablo 4? I thought
I
that
have
was
no
a
idea.
given. Like
I don't
maybe not at launch, but
I don't know, but it got too much to be this thing where it's like, okay, go to an instance dungeon. You
hmm.
have these quests. Um, do these quests. You know, oh, also, I'm gonna ping you as to like I'm gonna give you an alert that this monster is out in the world right now. Gather a team and do. It just really didn't feel like what I liked most about Diablo 2. And of course, this is boomer me talking, right? Like, yeah, this is not Diablo 2 anymore. But these are things that I really liked about Diablo. And I think a
Hmm.
lot of people really like Diablo that I'm afraid will be wiped away for let's be honest, not really bad features, just newer features of games. Newer games are
Hmm.
all like this. So this
Okay.
isn't me being like, oh, how could they possibly do this? Of course they could do this. Like
I don't care that
these are
much
just newer
about
aspects of
this.
games.
Like, I'm not saying I like it or I don't like it. It's more like that's not why I'm playing Diablo 4, and I don't think it being in the game or out of the game, or well, it's a slider, right? Like, I don't care where that slider is. I think it's just gonna have like a 5 to 15% impact on my game at most, from the most extreme one way to the most extreme the other way. Like, I think it's more like I care about how it feels to like hit a monster, right? I care about, you know, whether there are some strategies, like big picture strategies, meta strategies, on the ground strategies, and just action timing, whatever reaction, whatever you want to call it, to the monsters. Like, I care about that, which obviously for D2 was very limited, and for D3 was a bit more so. And I imagine for D4 it's going to take it to a higher level as ARPGs have evolved to be at a higher level than what Diablo 3 was. Um, so that's what I care the most about. And I think that D4 is, I hope D4 is going to deliver on that. Diablo Immortal even did quite a good job on it. Like the Diablo Immortal feel is pretty damn nice. Like there's not a ton of strategy to it, but there's not no strategy. There's not no on the ground reaction or positioning or any of that. They just made the content a bit easy because there's no like you can't do like hardcore mode. You can't do like the normal Diablo sliders that make things harder are not as available to you outside of PvP for Diablo Immortal, but the feel of the game is still good, and that's enough for me to keep playing a Diablo game. Like, give me a good feel, and then give me some kind of persistently progressive thing to get, whether it is more stats, better items, just something else, and then I'm good. Right? Diablo 3 fell apart because there was nothing to get because the auction house was everything. And so you would just play the auction house. That's the only part that like it like majorly fell apart for me. So
Well, there was nothing to get, and items didn't matter because the content was so hard.
yeah,
You
yeah,
you getting a godly item didn't even move the needle for you.
mm-hmm.
I remember I got like so I was playing Monk at the beginning, which was a terrible idea. Monk was like shit tier when D3 first launched. And I
Oh, you were playing
remember
monk. I was
because
playing barbarian. Okay, that was like the one class that was worse than the monk when it launched. I
yeah,
had to
it was just
switch to
bad.
demon
Well,
hunter.
you couldn't play melee, right? You
Yeah,
like couldn't play melee. That was like the main thing. You just couldn't play melee. But I remember I got this weapon that was like just complete god tier. And I traded for it. Like we did tons of good trades. Obviously, didn't play the game. Just like traded items and everything. I got it, and then I put it on my character, and then I used it. I was like, I still can't kill shit.
mm-hmm.
I still couldn't kill shit. Like it wasn't like, oh man, I'm only shaving a few seconds off my kill. I went from I can't kill these monsters to I still can't kill these
Yeah.
monsters, which was the worst feeling in a game ever. And that was like a god tier weapon. I was like, wow, they made a shit game here. Like
Mm.
that is the ultimate fail as a dev when
It's because I didn't
like
think about it. Like itemization for endgame was like so poorly thought out. Like they were
it
just
was
like,
so bad.
"Hey, we're gonna make a great game, get you to the end game, and then here's an end game, right?" People will make whatever they did for it because that's what they did for D2. Like they didn't do shit for D2, and people put up with all sorts of terribleness, and they eventually made it better and better and better and better. And they're like, "We can do that for D3 too." And like, no, you can't because expectations have changed. Even when D3 was launched like 10 years ago, but also you have the real money auction house now. You really can't just put your hands off and be like, "Oh, it is what it is." Like you're making money from this incrementally now. You gotta put some content out. So I
Yes.
think D4 is definitely going to solve for that problem, at least, which was my main gripe with D3. And so I don't know. I think I have less concerns about the thing, like everything you said that you were like, "Oh, I'm fearful this may happen." I think it could totally happen. I don't know if it's you being a boomer and everyone else is more. Most people are cool with it or not, but who's the audience for Diablo 5, right? That's something else that I'm
Wait,
always
Diablo
thinking. Sorry,
5? The
Diablo
audience
4.
is my grandkids.
Sorry.
That's the audience for Diablo 5, okay? My
uh
grandkids.
Diablo 4, who's the audience? Like, obviously, we're part of the audience, but are we the main audience? Or are the people who have been playing, like, Overwatch the main audience, right? Like, are they trying to get these new gamers who have not played a Diablo game before, or who have, like, played it for, like, very casually for like, oh, D2R is here, let's try it. Let's give D3 a shot, but, like, are not hardcore about it? Like, what about people who have never tried a Blizzard franchise before? Like, who's the target audience of this game, or especially the end game? And I think that's going to be a big, big kind of issue. Like, one thing that I saw with Diablo Immortal is that everybody wants something different out of Diablo, much more so than any other games. Like, you want to talk about everyone wants something different out of Hearthstone. The different types of players in Hearthstone, the Timmies and the Spikes and whatever, are way closer together than the different types of Diablo player. The different types of Overwatch players are almost the same player when compared to Hearthstone, and definitely the same exact person when compared to Diablo. Like, in Diablo, the thing people care about is 12 different things, and each of those people don't care about 6 of the other 11 things at all. That's a Diablo game. Like, you will have people on the forums who will be like, this is what can be improved about Diablo, like, Immortal. And it's like all PvP stuff. As if the rest of the game was totally fine, which it's not. And then you have other people who are like, this is what, would be improved by Diablo Immortal. And it's all quality of life stuff. Zero mention of PvP or even anything with, like, PvE, really. And I'm like, oh, so you don't really care about the game at all. You just want it to be easier and less frustrating for you to engage with it. And these are, like, many, many multi-layered points. And these people, there's 12 types of people in Diablo Immortal. There's probably fewer for Diablo 4 because it's not also a mobile game on top of everything else. And it probably has actual more optimized optionality of creating your own experience.
What are the 12 types of people? In
oh my god,
Diablo
just
Immortal?
just Google like suggestions for Diablo Immortal, and then find the different things, and then find the people who like agree and disagree with it. I've been following the Diablo Immortal subreddit for like way too long. It is just like Diablo Immortal has the most terrible players, like the most terrible players, and then on top of it, they don't communicate with each other. They don't like each other. I mean, the game is also kind of set up so that you're not supposed to like the people around you. Uh, but like beyond all that, there's just a much lower level of both community, which is weird because it's an MMO, but it's a mobile game, so maybe the community is more looser to begin with, and like I don't know, just ability to like reading comprehension, like or like
Yes.
ability and like caring about the game even. Like I think that's very low for Diablo Immortal. They care about the game like emotionally, but not about anything in the game in any kind of logically consistent way. It's not like I have this goal or vision for the game. I want to get here. If we get here, I will be happier. Like that thought process is not like a full complete thought process for like what seems to be I don't know 75 to 80% of the voters on that subreddit. Um, so anyway, I feel like Diablo 4 is gonna have that same problem. So what kind of audience that they really try to cater the end game experience to will affect a lot of whether how much we like the game and how much we enjoy it.
Oh yeah. Look, this is something that we have known for quite a while, and if this triggers some people, if this makes people angry, I don't really care. The Diablo franchise fan base, and I'm going to include us in here
Mm-hmm.
to some extent, um, is the most, like, if not the most, one of the most dumbest fan bases out of all the player bases. Okay. Like, the people who play Diablo games are pure idiots. Once again, I'm going to lump myself in there. Okay. The fact that, for example, in Diablo Immortal, I am considered very good in PvP is atrocious. Everybody else should be ashamed.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else should be damn ashamed
That's what I've been
that
saying
I
since
am considered
June.
very good in
Is that
PvP.
people are so bad at this game, like so bad, like inconceivably bad.
Yes.
And it makes sense for Diablo Immortal, right? Because skill doesn't matter as much when there are whales around, and so a lot of the people who care about skill and who care about getting achievements with their skill just don't play the game as they should. Because if you want that, you also have to drop thousands of dollars into the game, like many thousands of dollars, or else you're just at a competitive disadvantage. And why would you do that? So the people who are remaining in the game, at least on the PvP side, are people who are like generally more okay with inequality and handicaps. Like, I like playing games on hard mode. I don't really mind Diablo Immortal's PvP because I would select that handicap anyway. Like, maybe not to
You,
the degree that they're
I
putting
was
it,
like,
but
right
like, I
now
would.
that degree is real.
I mean, it's
Like,
true, but I
it's
also
real
have put a
stuff.
lot of money into it to mitigate that, right? And I'm, may put like more, but I can kind of control my own experience at the PvP level. But that's me, right? I like playing things on hard mode, so and I also like playing support, or
Well, okay, all right, right. So
auxiliary
yeah,
characters.
right now it is a different. It's the best meta a 2K Crusader has ever been in,
Yes,
right?
mm-hmm.
Yes, but by far,
It's a great meta for a 2K Crusader.
well, it's like your meta. It's the meta of 2K Crusaders and 3K Barbs, right? You know, like
Mhm.
those are big difference makers. Obviously, yeah, I'm not going to talk about the
I have a
7K
60% win
monks.
rate right now in this season. It's
Yeah,
wonderful, and I'm in the
I
top
believe that.
bracket.
I believe that.
A lot of it is luck, but also, like I'm not necessarily making a big difference, but I'm doing enough small things that I
Yeah.
did less of before. It's an
No.
8v8. There's only so much you
Yeah.
could do.
No. That it is the best meta that it has ever been for you. So yeah, you do get to control a lot. You get to control a lot more than any 2K should be expected to
Yeah.
control, right? So yes, it is a good meta for you. No, but overall, like, bleh, it
And
is
I'm
good.
like 2.5k now. So that also
Oh,
helps. I'm like
okay,
2.4 something k. I don't know. I think 2.4k.
okay,
Um and I have enough to be 2.5k. I'm just choosing. I have enough to be 2.6k right now. I'm just choosing not to do it because again, I'm
yeah,
controlling my difficulty. But that's just me. Okay, so enough about Diablo 4. If you're looking at our streaming plans, we will definitely stream Diablo 4. In fact, when Diablo 4 comes out, I think that there will be a bit of a pause on Hearthstone. I don't know if I'm going to pause it for a couple weeks or like a month, but there just won't be Hearthstone content. Um, Maybe we'll still do the podcast, but I don't think there will be actual gameplay content because I need to be playing Diablo 4.
yes.
That's just
I too will be pausing my
pausing,
Hearthstone
pausing the Hearthstone.
content. I'm
Um,
pumping out so much these days. Ugh, I'm
so
sorry, guys. Yeah.
I had an idea that I have since been come to see that it's a crazy idea, and I'm not going to do it. But maybe I will. We'll see. But I had a crazy idea that with the launch of Diablo 4, it'll be about a month into my first child's life, and I'm on paternity leave, so I have all the time in the world minus whatever time this kid is going to demand of me. And I'm on night duty, so like I'm going to switch my schedule to the night for the period of duration of my paternity leave. So I'll just be playing a lot of video games, watching a lot of shows or whatever. But I was considering doing a 24/7 for an entire month of just a live stream and put a bed up here and just like broadcast my life. Because I'm not doing anything else. And there'll be a lot of Diablo 4 playing anyway, and I'll be streaming Diablo 4 anyway at probably like the our normal time slash maybe even on the later side. So I was considering that, and I still might do it. I don't know. It'll depend on how bothersome the baby is, and I'll have a month to figure that
Bothersome
out.
the baby is.
Some babies are more
Okay.
bothersome than others. Also, be depend on how good I am at dealing with this baby stuff. Because if I like get really frustrated and like annoyed all the time, then I don't want to stream myself, right? Like
Well,
that's
that won't be a problem because you're so even keeled
uh,
and
yeah. I mean,
tempered all the
I'm
time.
polarized. I'm not bipolar, but I'm polarized. Like there are many things in which I am like 20 times calmer than most people at dealing with, and there are other things that trigger me really quickly. So I don't know where a baby is in that. I've never had a baby, so we'll see. But
Hmm.
if everything's going well, maybe, or maybe I'll just like stream a lot more and not necessarily make it a 24/7 thing and like sleep in front of the camera. But I was googling the rules. You can apparently like sleep. There's like you could like sleep and film yourself sleeping, and that's content, and Twitch won't like take your stream down or like stop it. So you could just like people have done it. They just like go to sleep as long as the camera is aimed at them and you can vaguely see them. So it needs some kind of dim lighting or something.
Wait. Okay, you're going a lot into this. Like, by the way, guys, legally, technically by TOS, I can do sleep. Okay, nobody is asking you if it is possible. Who asked for an out to sleep stream?
No, no, no,
Who the
no.
hell asked for
It,
this?
it, it's
What?
it's not about who asked for it. Okay, it's about then the stream will just be on rather than it having to start and stop. Like, why not is kind of the question, right? Like, what's the downside of it, even if no one's watching? You're asking why. You're asking, will you get a viewership of 10 or 1 or 100? Like, at what point is it worth it setting up a sleep stream? I'm like, I'm on paternity leave. I have nothing else to do. It's just this
No, no, no,
baby
no, no, no.
and
Not
Diablo
even
4.
not even decide the other people. Why are you doing it?
Why not?
Not no. This isn't a why not kind of a thing. Okay, this
Well,
isn't
okay,
one where you just
because I'm dealing with the baby.
no. The norm is not okay. The norm is not streaming yourself sleep,
Okay,
so
well
you
the
don't get to just
norm
say a why not.
norm is also not streaming Diablo 4, right? We're streaming Diablo 4 anyway, and if I want to stream Diablo 4 for like the entire time that I'm playing it, it's gonna be a long time, right? But in the middle of it, I'm gonna have to keep getting interrupted because the baby's gonna need stuff, and I'm on night duty. So I could just like put it all together. Is kind of what I'm thinking, right? And then I don't have to worry about anything. And it's like a weird period of my life anyway, where I don't have to go to my day job. Um, so I don't know. That's what I was thinking. It probably won't happen, but I had given it serious thought and I had done some research.
What was your research?
On the sleeping thing I told you, on whether it's against
Oh,
TOS to
sorry. I thought your research was into like childcare and everything. No, it was Twitch TOS.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah,
okay,
Twitch
I gotcha.
TOS. The baby
Gotcha.
doesn't care if you're streaming or not. I can also keep the baby
No,
off
that's
camera.
not the. That's
Like the camera only sees
not
like I don't know, a third of this
what.
room.
That's
And
not
the baby can't
okay.
move. So it can't just like get on camera. I'm in full
Yeah.
control of whether the baby's on camera or not.
Once I'm not. This isn't okay. I'm just gonna say okay. 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 Great.
Oh, and it'll
Okay.
also be kind of a workout stream because I need to lose a lot of weight.
How is this a workout? Aren't you sleeping? Wait, what am
Well,
I
it's
missing
everything.
here?
It's 24 hours, so I will be sleeping for like whenever I'm sleeping, but I'll also be playing Diablo for whenever I'm doing that, and I'll just be like off camera, for when I'm taking care of the
Well,
kid.
okay. How is you being recorded equal to a workout?
No, no, no. I
I
mean,
don't
I'm gonna
understand.
work out too in the day, and that'll also be like shown. Not like I'm gonna guide people through workouts. I just mean that will. I'm literally listing out the activities that I will engage in my 24 hours expected in the month of June, which is baby care, eating food, which I can eat in front of the TV. It's a mukbang stream too.
I didn't know
Sleeping.
we were announcing a dramatic shift from our content into 24-hour live like
Maybe.
vlogs of
Well,
your
no, no, no.
life.
But the camera's not moving. That's the thing, right? Like the camera's just gonna face this room. Like I also looked into moving the camera. That's a little more complicated. I don't know if I'm gonna, want to set that up. But it would just be this room, and I just will not leave this room pretty much for a month. That's my ideal state, though. Like that's probably what's gonna happen, regardless of whether I'm streaming or not.
Are you going to leave for the baby?
The baby will be in the room. Maybe in that closet right there. I also looked into how to keep a baby in a closet because I don't want like the lights to bother it, right? Like because I don't want to confuse night and day. And I'm definitely gonna need lights if I'm streaming, but I'm also just kind of want lights, like just to exist. Like how did you do it? You were on night duty with your baby.
Keep my fucking baby in a closet. Step
Yeah, yeah,
one,
yeah, yeah,
okay?
yeah. But how'd you do the
Step
night thing?
one,
Like,
step
were
one.
the lights on? You were in the same room as the baby, right? At night when the baby was sleeping? Like, were your lights off the whole night? Were your lights on?
First of all, like with many things, you want to move past the closet baby thing real
Ah,
fast.
yeah, 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 yeah. One. It's just an idea. I'm not necessarily gonna do it. Two, I googled it. It's totally fine. There's no problems with closet baby. It's a walk-in closet. It's not like a small closet.
It's a walk-in closet, guys. It's a walk-in closet,
There's
guys.
There's a vent in there. It's ventilated.
There is
It's
a
it's a
vent.
ventilated walk-in closet. I don't know. I could also put the baby in the other room, right? But the closet's just closer. And it's a baby. It was in a womb before, like right before. Like a closet's way bigger than a womb. I just don't think babies need as much space as we give them. Like you swaddle the baby, right, to give it less room.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay, but really, serious question though. I knew you were on night duty and you were like living at the night and sleeping during the day.
Yes, you want the lights off and you want there to be white noise
Yeah,
if possible,
yeah,
such that yes,
yeah.
yes.
Okay, so I got
You
the
want
bassinet
there
with like the white noise machine, and we could put it in the closet with the light off.
yes.
Yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It can also be in the other room with the light off, right? It'll be the same. I just don't see the point. The baby's not going to know if it's in a large room. The other room's really big. It's like the size of half the base of the house. But the baby's not going to care between that and the closet. Why are we putting a baby in the closet? The question is always why not. And people keep asking why. When why not is also a question. You can go Google putting a baby in a closet, by the way. A lot of people do it. This is not like a weird thing. Or this is not a too weird thing that no one does it. I'm sure most people don't put their babies in closets. But a lot of people do, especially walk-in ventilated closets. Okay. Anyway, enough about that. That was my D4 potential streaming plans. But even if we don't do that, and I'm probably not going to do that, I will definitely be streaming D4 a good amount. And it'll probably be in a way to ramp up. Actually, I don't know. It depends how much I play, right? Like, if I play 8 hours a day, I'll probably stream 4 of it, at least. If I play, like, 12 hours a day, and it's not like 12 uninterrupted hours. I'll have to go and take care of the baby in the middle, so it may not be the best streaming content. But Diablo's not the best streaming content anyway. It's just like a long hangout. And you guys would be my only friends. Because I won't leave the house, like, in that, like, you know, in terms of people I talk to. Like, I talk to you guys, like, just through the stream. If anyone calls me, I'll be like, hey, man, just type on Twitch chat. I'm here. Anyway. That's Diablo 4. And a little bit of my personal life. What about your personal life? How's your baby doing? How's your life? When is Arena Coup coming back? People are talking about Diablo 4 content. When's Hearthstone content coming back?
Hearthstone content is not coming back for a little bit. I am dead tired, but Julian is great. That's the update I will give. Julian is fantastic, super cute. I'm actually going to show him off in a minute once we end this. So that will be the quick and dirty update. All right.
All right. That's it for the podcast. We're wrapping up. Oh, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Best picture or no best picture? It's happening in like a couple hours.
I'll say yes. I have no idea. I don't
say
really
yes.
care about the Oscars.
I was saying no until I saw that the odds this morning had gone up from an 8-1 favorite to a 20-1 favorite. Insiders clearly know. This is clearly an insider job on the betting markets at this point. So I think some people somewhere know and are trying to make some money on this. And so I'm going to go with yes. I'm going to go with they are going to win. And that'll be really weird because it will be a butt plug movie that wins an Oscar for Best Picture. It's a new world. All right. That's it for us. We'll see you next week. Until then, this is ADWCTA.
This is Merps. Goodbye.